Welcome back to another Mackem in the Middle podcast after another league game for Sunderland, this time at home to Norwich in a game that did end in a 1-0 defeat, but there's very much plenty of stuff to talk about before the game, after the game, and of course during the game, and then player ratings once again at the end of it. First and foremost, so John, obviously it's been a interesting 48 hours for everyone involved with Sunderland, and there was a sense of I want to say confusion going into this game as to what could happen, how the players would react to it, how the atmosphere would be like. But in the end, I think it all went fairly well by the result, which obviously we'll get onto.
Yeah, there's always that, obviously there's been a lot of rumours and those types of things, but you're always wondering, what's the reaction going to be from the players? And I think we did say in the podcast we did on Friday that we'd hope it would be, they'd sort of, come out the blocks and firing. And to be fair, I think that's exactly what we saw. And I saw a few things on social media about, that the fans need to get behind, the team. And to be fair, I didn't expect anything different than the atmosphere that we got. And, I watched it on Sky, and to me, the atmosphere was, electric and probably as good as any atmosphere we've had in recent times. And, the team gave us, obviously we'll come on to the game itself and the result. But yeah, the players gave a performance, that we should expect, week in, week out. We'll go to, we probably did run out of steam again. That's probably another thing we'll go through. But yeah, that's the only thing, just give it literally everything, and that's all we can ask for.
Yeah. And as always, Kyle, when something happens at Sunderland, there's always 100 reasons for it. There's always messages come out from random people who don't reveal where the messages have come from. WhatsApp messages, WhatsApp voice notes, videos, pictures, whatever you like. And obviously there was a few messages floating around Twitter that, this was obviously prior to the game, before anything was actually kind of communicated to the fans. And obviously there was some kind of communication just before the game from Speakman, which again we'll get onto. But before that, there was a lot of unrest. There was messages coming out that, the players had started to be unsettled. They'd all stormed into Speakman's office and said, well, if he goes, I go. And people were just a bit kind of nervous going into the game, thinking, would the players respond to this well? Would they respond to it badly? Would players be missing for this game? But on the game as a whole, there wasn't any sign of that at all, was there?
Right, and I think my favorite rumor was that Kirill was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah,
that was happening. I was like, oh yeah, we've reached full capacity here. But
I mean, there was someone on the radio. Like, I was listening to BBC Newcastle after the game, because we always do, because we always get stuck in traffic. It takes about an hour to get home after a match day. So we put BBC Newcastle, and there was a caller that rang in, and he was having an argument about it, saying like, "Oh, why is Kirill Louis-Dreyfus at Kilimanjaro not sorting this out?" And I was like, he just wasn't there, though, was he?
Right, and yeah, it's that was funny. That's when I realized, I was like, okay, we gotta get out ahead of this pretty quickly. So, and it's good that we have some decent kind of journalists in our little circle that we're able to rely on for a little bit of clarity. But yeah, tons of uncertainty, right? And I think that kind of sums up a lot of my experience as a fan of the last 5 or 6 years, is a lot of uncertainty. So this was kind of par for the course. But the one thing that has always been constant, and I think this group of players knows it, above it, almost anyone else, is how much they just need to show up for the fans, because the fans are going to show up for them. And I think that we saw that, maybe in teams past, a team that wasn't as unified, maybe they would kind of crumble, or they would start to kind of look elsewhere. But this team genuinely likes each other. I think you can see that. And obviously they appreciate what the fans have enabled them to do, and kind of get them to where they're at in this career, which is, just such a luxury to have. And so, yeah, I didn't have any doubt that the players were going to come out. I didn't really pay attention to a lot of the noise, and I don't think the players did either. It's their job. They just got to get on with it. And I think they did. Admirably yesterday.
Yeah. And obviously there is still a lot going on. People still want questions answered. People still going to be pointing fingers at certain people and questioning what's happened, John. But like I said, Speakman came out before the game, spoke to, I think it was Sky, I presume it was Sky, but obviously it was on Twitter anyway, and kind of somewhat clarify the situation. Obviously can't give all the details, because quite frankly, even now, Alex Neil is still our manager as it stands. So he kind of gave the clarity where he could. Said that I think Alex Neil had agreed new terms 4 weeks ago on a deal. And people will believe stuff on Twitter, but as soon as it comes from Speakman, people don't believe it. Has what he said changed anything that we kind of discussed on the podcast on Friday?
I don't think it's really changing. I mean, there's been a lot of opinions from certain people, and even the guys who even going to Mickey Gray was talking, and sort of blaming the club. There's been blame both sides. Obviously, Speakman can only come out and tell a bit of his side at the moment because obviously the legal things and that. But if you've got to look at literally everything and think, like, what is the reason? The main reason at the moment is just it seems to boil down to money. And Alex Neil's only human, as are me and you, and I'm sure in our line of work, if someone offers us better terms, then ultimately we'd go to our boss and say, well, they've offered me this, can you match it, because I want to stay here? And they sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, and in this case they've said no. They've stick to their guns. It would have been nice if we knew 4 weeks ago that Alex Neil had agreed new terms, and that's only a thing that's only just come out now. And there's obviously rumours again that quite strong ones that we offered him a newer one sort of Friday to no avail, and then we see him then he's off to Stoke. So to me, it judging by everything, it looks as though it's just purely a financial and a security thing on a 3-year deal at Stoke, even though continuously insist on a 1-year sort of rolling deal at a previous club. So it's a very strange one, but that seems to be the motivation. And yes, it's sore and yeah, it hurts, but it's one of those ones you've got to accept.
Yeah. And one of the things we mentioned on Friday, Kyle, was obviously the impact this kind of whole fiasco would have on not just the playing side, but obviously the recruitment side as well, whether players would still want to sign for Sunderland, not knowing who they're going to be playing under. Well, that PSG wonderkid, I think it's Edouard Michou, obviously he was at the game yesterday, and according to Fabrizio and a few other people, that appears to be done. Quite frankly, the fact he was at the game is a bit of a giveaway that it's a lot closer than we expected it to be, and that's obviously a loan deal, and I think it's an obligation to buy for around €5 million. Could be wrong on that, and again, once that does get confirmed, if it gets confirmed, I'm sure we will find out. But it is important that Sunderland don't let this situation get in the way of their recruitment, because we still need to bring players in.
Right, and I think it's a pretty strong showing from kind of our front office and Speakman and whatnot. Obviously, they're selling the kid not necessarily on the you're going to be playing for this top flight manager, because I bet the kid from PSG, I don't think he's probably ever heard of Alex Neil, right? So I think those types of players, they can be a little riskier just with the age and attitude, and you just don't know how they're going to adjust and adapt. But it just goes to show that we obviously are selling something more than just playing for this manager, playing in this certain style or system. It's more long term, like, hey, come here, look at this club, look at the fans. We can build your career on this stage, and kind of lift you up from there. So I think the signings that have been brought in so far, I like I said, if they were local kids, or if they had played for Alex Neil previously and we were bringing them in, sure, then those types of deals might fall through. But given that both Jewison and is it Edouard? Is that kind of?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, being that they're both foreign, I think that they're both going to just kind of look at this opportunity and see what how we're enabling our youth and playing these young players and giving them this platform. I think that's really what they're more looking forward to. The manager obviously plays an important part, but I don't think for the specific signings that we're bringing in, I don't think it's going to affect us much. And it really does help, like I said, to have a strong existing core, because I think the biggest thing is just going to be how they're going to adapt and gel with the team, because obviously the team has a lot of togetherness. It's always hard to come in and kind of be that new face, and but it seems like everything I've heard before is that the team's been super accepting and really and bringing the new guys in. So I'm excited to see how these two new signings that we have will gel with the team. So yeah, I don't. So to sum it up, but yeah, I don't think the Alex Neil thing is going to be too much of an issue. I think the recruitment department has a strategy that they're obviously implementing pretty well.
And obviously, the way we do recruit at the minute, John, probably suits the situation that Sunderland are in at the moment. Obviously, without a manager officially, but obviously, a lot of teams in the past would recruit for the manager, for the type of players that he wants. And obviously, Alex Neil will have had say in some of the signings that were brought in, because quite frankly, you're not going to bring someone in that the manager doesn't want to use. But the way Sunderland obviously operate at the minute is they bring players in to suit the club as opposed to the manager. So even though Alex Neil's gone now, and obviously the search for a new manager is underway and hopefully gets concluded fairly soon, it's promising that, Speakman, Kimberly Dreyfus, whoever else is involved, will know exactly what type of manager they want to bring in to work with this exact type of squad.
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be, a very hands-on coach that can, that's got a track record of making players, better. If we, like I say, if we get the French kid in, and say we did say on Friday, if he does well and sort of in 18 months' time, he's probably worth, 3-4 times, what we've paid for him. And then that money then goes back into the academy, back into the club, and sort of redoing it and making sure the club is self-sufficient. Same with Jewis and Bennett. I don't think these players are necessarily super ready for the championship and maybe what we need right now. But obviously the club's vision is, can we get these players in? Can we get them to a good enough standard where we can sell them on for a very, very good profit? Same with sort of Sirkin, same with Huggins, those types of people. If someone comes in with a, say a 12 million bid for Sirkin, or even though he's got a clause for Tottenham, we'll happily accept that, and maybe trying to find another one and move on. That's obviously the way the club are going, which is good considering, what we've been doing recently, recent years, when you look at the likes of sort of 8 million on, Dilibogi and those types of signings that we never got any comeback on, and to make the club self-sufficient. But yeah, it's got to be, it's got to be a person who's got, a half decent track record of, coaching, very hands-on, and they'll probably look to someone who's a bit more of a, we'll say a yes man, who's just right. Those are your players that you've been given. Go off and just get on with it. And I think Neil was that to some extent, but you could probably tell there were a few rumblings of, I'll probably want a few more experienced players, but 9 times out of 10 he's gone now. So it's the club can sort of push their own way.
Yeah. Well, on the game, Kyle, because quite frankly, this is what the podcast is about, the game against Norwich. In terms of how we lined up for the game, it was obviously the exact same team as the previous few fixtures, and obviously the exact same way that many people will have predicted. It was obviously Patterson, O'Nien, Barton, Sirkin. Dan Neil, obviously back from his 1-game suspension alongside Corey Evans with Gooch, and Clark playing as the wing-backs, Pritchard, Sims and Stewart as a front three. So again, same start 11. And for probably about 60, 70, probably even 75 minutes, Sunderland looked far and away the better team.
Right, and from what I understand, Neil did kind of construct this lineup. I mean, I guess that was like the last thing he did, from what I've read. So it makes sense that he would kind of stick with it. And yeah, exactly. And it feels like I've watched the same home game now like 3 or 4 times, where it's like the crowd's amazing, we're energized, you can tell we're after it, we're getting after it, and then we just start to wither just a little bit, right? And it comes about that hour mark when it's kind of the first, all of a sudden the other team has a good run of form, and it's like, okay, well, we gotta hold on here and then get some subs in. But and that's probably where Alex Neil was looking at. It's like, we just don't have those players to really bring in off the bench to really stabilize things at that point. And so it felt very similar to what we've seen. But with everything that's been going on, with all the noise on the outside, that's exactly what we wanted to see as fans. And Norwich, I mean, God, I mean, they've been up and down for the Premier League each season for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Yeah. So I mean, these are obviously top end Championship, low end Premier League players that we're playing against, and none of them really stood out to me as like, oh wow, they're miles above us. And maybe on a different day, they could have been, maybe had a bad game against us, or maybe we played more conservative. But I felt like as a unit, there was no one on our side of the field that I didn't feel was just as good as each of their players.
And obviously, it has been a similar story for quite a few games, like Kyle mentioned there, John, where Sunderland have started well. They've kind of continued that throughout the game, but just haven't took the chances that they've got. Where, like, obviously yesterday we had plenty of chances, we didn't take them. More so due to just being unlucky, I think, as opposed to poor finishing. Other games, obviously, we've dominated possession, moved the ball well, not being able to create anything. But yesterday we certainly created chances. We just didn't finish any of them. I think Corey Evans had, I think, 2, maybe 3, either saved by Krul or cleared off the line. Ross Stewart obviously had a shot that was deflected onto the bar. Ellis Sims hit the post. Pritchard had one cleared off the line. On another day, we're coming on this podcast talking about a 3-4-0 win because, quite frankly, we had so many chances in that game. We could have won 3 with them.
Yeah, exactly. We all saw how the game unfolded, and we had, I'd say we had a lot better at the play, a lot better at the chances. Maybe if he was being critical, you'd want some of the chances to maybe not fall to Corey Evans, and maybe so it's like another player with Pritchard or sort of a Dan Neil who could maybe take those chances. I think we're lacking the ability to change it up a little. Everyone can scream for changes from the bench, but if we haven't got anyone really to come on, I think the only one at the moment who could probably change it and who came on too late was probably Patrick Roberts.
Yeah.
Hasn't really been given a chance, which is a shame. When yesterday I don't think Jack Clark did that well in an attacking threat. I thought Gooch was a good attacking threat. I'd have probably brought Clark off, and then put Gooch probably sort of left wing back, and then Patrick Roberts the other side, and see how that goes. Elliot Embleton coming on again was really poor for me. I haven't really been impressed with him this season, so it shows the need for reinforcements. And again, the strikers, Ross Stewart will go for 90 minutes, but he probably should have scored on another day. We know he would score. He'd probably score a hat-trick, but we still haven't got that extra striker we can bring on for Sims after sort of 60, 70 minutes. Again,
I think the one thing that I was thinking at the time is just how little we seem to use Jack Diamond. Obviously, he was on loan at Harrogate last season. Granted, that's in League Two, and I think he got like 14, 16 goals, whatever it was. He's a player that just offers something completely different. And yeah, he's still raw. Yeah, he still lacks a little bit of quality in the final third. But, especially when you go 1-0 down, even at 0-0, he could have came on. But especially at 1-0 down, you stick Jack Diamond on, he stretches the play. He forces Norwich back, and the play kind of goes back into Sunderland's hand because if Jack Diamond's stretching play, the likes of Alex Pritchard might have a bit more time on the ball. It's a little bit surprising to see how little he's been used this season. Granted, he's still on the bench.
Yeah, I think you've still got those coaches who are very much of the Alex Neil ilk of, if they don't fancy you, they don't fancy you. Straight away. Jay Matte's, out of the squad, completely. It's almost if you're not fancied, that's it. It's almost like a closed door for you. And Diamond's really no different. The Sheffield United game, he came on for 5 minutes right at the end to see if he could, do anything. But apart from that, massively overlooked. And if they are going to be massively overlooked, it's a case of not wait until deadline day to ship them out. We should be actively getting shot now, and getting people in, who are going to be there. It's the same with, we spoke about Deaku on Friday. Alex Neil did not fancy him one little bit, but we spent a lot of money on him. So it's going to be, the new coach going to come in, and the board will turn around and say, well, we've got him there. He's been at Bayern Munich. He should be able to do a job in the Championship, and he's not really getting looking. And we've spent a lot of money on him. The pressure's going to be there to use him, and to get him in the squad and get him playing. But we go back to yesterday. It's very. Don't get me wrong. It was a really, really good performance. There was some really good individual performances, but you can only use Pritchard at the moment for sort of 60, 70 minutes, and then he blows out a little. If Jack Clark's not on it, what do we do? The strikers, yes, they've tried everything. I didn't think Sims was very good either yesterday, but you need those reinforcements. Norwich, to be fair, probably rode. It was like a proper away performance from them. They dug in some excellent, defending, and then if you're able to bring on blooming Teemu Pukki and Cantwell, who have, I'd say Pukki's been an okay Premier League player, for a few years. If you could bring those on, those players will come on and just make that. It only has to be one little difference. That's the one bit of quality. They play the ball through, ball across the goal, and Josh Sargent, who everyone raved about before the game on Sky, who didn't really do anything, grabs the headlines with one tap in. That's the difference, and that's exactly what we have to, aspire to, is having those, because you can make 5 changes now, so there's no excuse to be able to bring someone on who can make that difference, because we're going to need it, because we're able to stay in games even when it's tight, even though, we probably should have won yesterday on the whole balance of play. We should have won the game, but even if, we'd have brought a player on, got a draw, you could probably take that.
Yeah. And obviously, Kyle, the way Sunderland play is very obvious. When they play well, it's because they're playing with high intensity, high pressing, they're moving the ball quickly, they're getting bodies up the pitch. And like I said, they did that for the best part of 70 minutes. Pritchard again, pivotal in the middle, played into him, and, you've got Clark making runs, Stewart and Sims trying to get in behind. There was a few times when Norwich were playing the ball around the back, and one player would initiate the press, and you'd have 5 or 6 Sunderland players kind of trapping them in a corner. I think there was a few times we won the ball back from it, and nothing really came of it. But when the game wears off, that's when Sunderland become less effective, because no team in the world, regardless how fit you are, can press at that intensity and play at that intensity for full 90 minutes, twice a week, which is obviously the schedule at the minute. And like John said there, like we've said a few times so far this season, and like everyone says on Twitter, we just don't have the players to come on and kind of match that intensity. Elliot Embleton, again, a player that I talk about a lot, because, he's got quality. He scored in the playoff final, and, give him a free kick, give him a shot from 30 yards, he can score, he's got that quality. But I just don't think he has the work rate that matches the way Sunderland play. And, if you go 1-0 down like we did, or even around the 60th minute mark when Norwich started to go into the game and Sunderland just looked visibly tired, just having someone to come on the pitch, fresh legs, and keep that pressure on, keep that intensity on when Norwich are having the ball at the back, can make a big difference. And that's just the one thing that we're missing so far this season.
Right. And I think that's what's encouraging, is that I think the style of play that we've been playing, it does suit our starting 11 very, very well. And just like you said, I really do think we're about 1 or 2 players away, at least this season, from really being stable. And I think that's a word that's been thrown out a lot over the last few days, is, we just need to stabilize, because it can get ugly in the championship really quick, as I'm sure we've all seen before. And we have a really good blueprint set up. The players obviously are up to play. I mean, they didn't have a manager yesterday, and they still knew exactly what to do, and how to play and how to press. But yeah, just like you said, we need those 1 or 2 players, I'd say, especially in the midfield, and then someone like a Patrick Roberts who really could play anywhere, kind of in that front line. He's comfortable picking up the ball, dribbling halfway across the field. Sometimes it doesn't turn out for him, but a player like that to relieve the pressure and give your defense a rest is exactly what we need. But we just need about 1 or 2 of them, which I'm sure a lot of teams need, 1 or 2 of those types of players. But the formula is there, and the blueprint's there, and we've seen enough from our starting 11 to think, okay, we can ride this out in most games. It'd probably be nice to get 1 or 2 players a rest every other game, to freshen things up, because we still have like 40 games left, something ridiculous like that. I can't remember the exact number, but I know there's a lot, and we just have to stabilize. Bring in the players who are comfortable playing in that sort of situation, who are fresh legs, have that high energy, so that we can kind of maintain that press moving forward. But sometimes we just need to, give it all for that 60, 75 minutes, especially at home. And if it's just not working out, it's like, okay, well, worst case scenario, we can settle for a draw here. And, it just didn't work out for us yesterday. I think we were close to having that, but yeah, 1 or 2 players away. I definitely agree that we can get that, keep the same style of play. And that's going to be the tough job for the recruitment team and the front office, to find the coach who's okay with keeping this similar style of play and not having to change everything up. And so this next appointment could be pretty important for that regard. But overall, yeah, I think we're pretty close.
Yeah. And obviously, like we said, we talked about Sunderland's chances in the game. John, plenty played off the line. Grant Hanley, who I think ended up getting man of the match. from the game yesterday. He, if he wasn't in the place that he was on multiple occasions, Corey Evans comes away with a hat-trick, Ross Stewart comes away with the brace, and like I said, we talked about a massive win here. So in terms of the performance, I don't think there's any faults, but again, when you've stepped up from League One to the Championship, the difference in quality is massive, and it was one bit of quality that undid us for the Norwich goal. A bit of play here and there. I think it was actually all three players that came on as a sub for Norwich, which obviously contributed to the goal. It was Cantwell, I think, who played it into Ramsey on loan from Aston Villa. He's played it across goal, and Sargent somewhat unmarked in the middle. Dennis Cirkin was there. Could he have potentially done something? Possibly. I don't think it's a clear and obvious error that you can kind of pinpoint on anyone. But again, it's just one of them things that give a team an ounce of space. They have the quality and punish you with it.
Yeah, it is, and that's what you got to deal with. I wouldn't say Patton was super busy yesterday, but yeah, one good bit of quality, and from them, and maybe a bit, say naive again, on our part, to not shut it down before. But if a striker's able to come and sort of go off, get a free shot in the 6-yard box, I still think doesn't matter if playing 3 at the back, 5 at the back, or 4 at the back. Then I still think questions need to be asked. It's very, very easy tapping for him. But again, as we say, this league's a lot more unforgiving than maybe League One was, and we've got to learn that. We've got to learn that very quickly. It was You could probably see every time we were not scoring, it was wow. If we'll probably get sucker punched in. I did think that sort of sort of 7 minutes onwards, because we were maybe just blowing a little bit. And like I say, we didn't have anything to change it up with, but the Championship will do that to you. But we need to be in a position to be able to go and do that to teams, and if we do that, then I've got no issue, regardless of who comes in as coach or manager. I've got no worries at all about the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it did finish 1-0. Kyle, another game that you're playing against a team that are full of highly rated players, potential Premier League players. I think Max Evans, obviously, he started right back for Norwich. I think he was labelled a 30, possibly 50 million pound player not too long ago. Todd Cantwell, obviously, he's been in and around the top flight of English football. I think he was at Bournemouth last season when obviously they got promoted from the Championship. So again, you're playing against top quality players, top quality teams with Premier League players to come off the bench and change your game. So for Sunderland, again, it's easy to say this when you're not picking up points. And again, this narrative will probably change if we're still talking in this kind of way come December, and you're losing games but playing well, because at the end of the day, it is a results business, and we do need to start winning games at home. Because obviously we still haven't won yet, but there is still plenty signs of promise from Sunderland.
Right. Yeah. And going back to the game again yesterday too, O'Nien and Cirkin both picking up yellow cards early definitely did not help our case defensively, toward the end there, and that hurts us a little bit, it is quite amazing to see someone like Luke O'Nien who split a lot of opinions, over the years. I mean, if you look at performances yesterday, he's gonna be, we'll get onto it later, he was at the top for me, but just seeing someone like him going up against these players that I've seen play in the Premier League, it's almost like a fever dream. And I'm sure for him too, he probably has moments during the game where he's like, "Damn, this is pretty crazy." These guys were in the Premier League last year, but you can tell that there's no fear in this team, right? They all have confidence in their own ability, and I think, with Alex Neil, obviously he's going to leave a lot of people kind of bothered, by the way he left. But the one thing he did do, I think, is instill a tremendous amount of confidence in our players, who rightly so probably some of them shouldn't be out there, right? I mean, but they've obviously stepped up their game. They have that confidence, and I would say that's probably the longest lasting legacy that Alex Neil will have, is just taking the group of players that he did when he did and give them the confidence to say you could compete with anyone if you just give it your all for 75, 80, 90 minutes. And I think that was on display yesterday, seeing the players really give it their all, and up against a more talented side. And you couldn't tell, right? You couldn't tell that they were in the Premier League last year compared to us. We were in League One last year. And that was what I think was the most exciting thing to see moving forward. It's like, okay, our players still got it. Doesn't matter who's the manager. These players have that confidence moving forward.
Yeah. And also, like I said, John, you don't want to be in the same situation in December where we are having the exact same conversation at the end of each game, saying, yeah, we played well for 60 minutes, ran out of legs, conceded a goal, and we lost the game, positives to take, etc. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, if you're going to lose games, it doesn't matter how well you play. But, we're 6 games into the season, so there's not, too much kind of negativity to take from a defeat like that. Because like I said, you're playing a good team. Yeah, it's at home, and they are probably games you want to get something from, but it is still early days. But it's the 28th of August now, which means there's about 3 or 4 days left for Sunderland to bring players in. And obviously, like I said, that Michu is probably going to be confirmed either today or tomorrow, based off reports. Obviously, Van Heck on loan from Brighton. Whether that still goes through, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, I think Alex Neil's departure will have had somewhat of an impact on that one going through, but I think they are waiting on him to sign a new deal at Brighton as well. I think Alan Nixon, obviously take it with a pinch of salt, of course, but, Sunderland's still after a keeper. They're still after another player who can play as I want to say a third choice striker, but at the end of the day, if you play well, if you come to the club and you play well, you're not going to be third choice. So you're still looking at maybe 3, possibly 4 players to come in, which at the minute is 1 player every day. And time is running out for Sunderland to get the players that they need for us not to be in the same situation this time come December.
Yeah, I'm sure they alluded to, even Alex Neil in his press conference the other day said that, it's going to go right to the wire. Obviously, the Premier League clubs are trying to sort their squads out. I'm sure that's probably where, we're looking. And on deadline day, you'd probably expect, deals to flash up where we think, well, for 2 or 3 weeks ago, we probably wouldn't have been in a position to get those, or they wouldn't have been available or willing to come. So I think we're still massively down, the pecking order in the transfer window. Those types of things. But yeah, it's it's almost a messy one now, because obviously we're not just doing transfers, we're doing, manager searches, and with that comes the problem with trying to get players in, because players are going to say, well, who's your manager? Who are you thinking of getting? Who are you going to get? Because you don't want to sign someone, then some manager comes in and it's because, well, I don't really want to work with him. We can't have that, even though the club do sign players, that they think, not necessarily 100% manager's choice, which is what we've seen in times gone by. But I think hopefully the club knows that we need, 3 or 4, and the plans are already in place for these players for these, deals to get done. Like you said, I'm not sure about the Brighton defender. I'm pretty sure he actually played yesterday for Brighton in the Premier League. He came on as a substitute. So, you never know. He's played the last 2 games, and they might look at him and think, well, he could probably do a job, or someone's going to be stupid enough, to pay a real high loan fee, which I don't think we should, when we could probably get, a Dan Ballard, type player that we can sign permanently and grow ourselves, as opposed to growing someone else's, player. So we probably always say it again. It's probably one of the biggest transfer windows in terms of what we've got to do, in I don't know, 4 days we've got to do it in.
Yeah.
And obviously the manager search as well. So all that tied in, Christian Speakman has definitely got his work cut out.
Yeah. And the last thing before we move on to player ratings, I'll go back to you straight away for this one, John, then obviously Kyle as well. In terms of manager coming in, obviously Tony Mowbray was at the game yesterday, and I think he was at one of the games previously as well. He's been linked and seems to be the favourite for the job now. Obviously, a few other names are still being mentioned. Obviously, a few of the ones that we mentioned on Friday, the likes of Liam Manning, Robbie Fowler has been somewhat mentioned today. So there's still a few names in the hat, and quite frankly, nothing is confirmed until it's confirmed. And as it stands, there's not actually a vacancy at Sunderland for manager until Stoke confirm Alex Neil. So in terms of any immediate movement, I wouldn't expect that until probably at least Tuesday, to be honest. But based off who's favoured at the minute, which is obviously Tony Mowbray, would that be the right appointment for the club?
I don't think anyone's 100% sure. I think that's probably a steady appointment. It's definitely not an inspiring appointment.
It's a safe one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very. is very, very underwhelming and not one that's going to get really anyone excited. But I can't remember the last time we signed somebody or got a manager in, and I was super excited. He'd probably have to go, maybe that we were getting Roy Keane, even though it wasn't. Obviously, it's proved to not be the right, the right choice that we didn't get him. So yes, as fans, we want to be excited and we want to be, inspired and all that. But I just think that we're not going to do that. I don't think. I'm not sure about Mowbray. I've seen his record. Like you said, it seems to be a bit safe. I think personally, I'd like to go down maybe a younger. It's going to be a head coach and not a manager, so I wouldn't mind going down the line of, a Manning or that type of appointment who can work with the youngsters on the training pitch and bring, because it's not, I don't think it's like it used to be where it was a manager and he dealt with everything. It's very much like we say a head coach role who's there to coach the players, set us up tactically to win games, to be hard to beat in games. And I think we can get that without having to appoint Tony Mowbray. But I get the reasons that they'd probably be looking at him. We'd have to accept it. I wouldn't 100% be happy with it, but if it happened, we'd have to get behind it. But I'm definitely of the opinion that has to be. I think personally, it needs to be sort of a younger coach, just sort of a modern day coach, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. And obviously, people do want Sunderland to be ambitious with the next manager / head coach, whatever you want to say, when they bring him in, Kyle. And, some of the names being mentioned are names that I could certainly get behind, the likes of Sean Dyche, Bielsa was obviously people's kind of.
Yeah, you want to see high-pressing football for 90 minutes.
Yeah, Bielsa's perfect for that. But quite frankly, if, again, we don't know the ins and outs of Alex Neil's departure, the terms that were offered, what he's been given at Stoke, what he's been promised that he will be given down the road at Stoke. So, to go and throw more money at a different manager is something that I just can't see Sunderland doing. Bielsa was, well, I think his last wage at Leeds was around £120,000 a week. I could be wrong on that, but I'm fairly sure that's around how much he was earning, which I think is more than double our entire playing squad's wages. So
we can't afford Alex Neil, so we're not going to afford him, Sean Dyche, are we?
Yeah, obviously not. And obviously, like I say, Sean Dyche will be on quite a lot as well because he's just come from a recently relegated but Premier League club when he was there. So, them two names are names that I think we'd all love, but they're just not going to happen. Sunderland aren't going to break the wage structure to bring someone like that in.
Yep.
So it is, you're looking at realistically more uninspiring managers, which is probably harsh to say because, Alex Neil was very uninspiring at the time and look at what job he did when he came in. But is it better for Sunderland now to, it's a first season back in the Championship? We all want to get promoted. We all want to have a good season. We all want to achieve as much as we can. But the most important thing for Sunderland this season is to stay in the division. If we go down to League One, again, you could be stuck there for another 5, 6, possibly longer. So Sunderland need to stay up. But Tony Mowbray would not guarantee that. Obviously, no manager can guarantee you would be safe from relegation, but it would be a very safe bet. Liam Bannon, obviously, he's only he's at MK Dons. I think he recently managed in Denmark, I want to say. It was somewhere like that. And obviously, I think he was at West Ham's under 23s as well. So he's never managed in the Championship before, Liam Bannon. He would be a risk, but it would be a risk that could have a very high ceiling. So what route would you prefer Sunderland to go down with this? Someone safe like Mowbray, keep us up, stabilise us, and then potentially 2 or 3 years down the line, we go for someone like Liam Bannon? Or do we just throw the boat now, get Liam Bannon in and potentially just take the risk on him?
I think it's definitely the Mowbray route, and that does seem a little uninspiring. But, we at least have seen how this team competes in the Championship. So we know, there's enough there to stay up just on probably, effort and merit alone. We just need someone who knows how to kind of navigate the ins and outs of the Championship. And it sounds funny because I think we said the same things about Phil Parkinson in League One. It's like, he knows how to win in League One, right? He knows what it's like to go down to Gillingham or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar with Mowbray, is that he knows what, you know, these opposing stadiums are like, and you know, the travel required and the amount of games and how to manage squads. He doesn't have the most, you know, impressive track record, but he's been in there, he's done it. He knows what these teams are capable of. He knows what to look for, what types of players are. You know, the scouting would probably be a little easier for him. Liam Manning, someone like him, I think you're right. I think if we can stabilize in the championship in a year or two down the road, it's like, okay, we are without a doubt. We're like a Huddersfield, for example, where it's like we're in the championship year in, year out. Yes, go for something a little bit more ambitious. See if he can give us that extra, you know, 10% to get us into those playoffs position. But at this point, stabilize is going to be the word again. We have to stabilize. I think Mowbray makes the most sense there, and I think that's why he's included. But I think it's important that we're not just putting all the eggs in one basket, and we really do give it, you know, give everyone a decent shot. But time is of the essence, and we need someone to come in and who's just going to kind of know. I don't know if he'd know the area necessarily, but he did coach at Celtic a little bit. You know, not that it's identical to Sunderland by any means, but similar kind of northern area. He knows what the weather is going to be like in the winters and things like that. So it just makes sense to me. We would all like someone young and ambitious. I think that goes without saying, but I don't know if now is the time for that, because if we go on a bad run of form, am I confident that Liam Manning can block out the noise that he would undoubtedly hear and get it done? I don't know, but I'm sure Mowbray, he's been around long enough. He knows how to kind of, you know, quiet the noise and just get on with it. So that's where I would go.
Yeah. Well, whoever comes in, hopefully that is by Wednesday's game, obviously at home to Rotherham. I know I said Reading was the next game, I think, on the last podcast we did, but it is Rotherham, so I do apologise for that one. But before we wrap it up, player ratings, we'll quickly rattle through as quickly as we can, starting with Anthony Patterson. John?
I'll probably go with a 6. Made all the saves he could have done, but for me, his kicking was a bit off today. Kept putting it out of play, which frustrated me a little bit. But I'll go with 6.
Kyle?
Yep, I agree. It's the same thing with the distribution. I remember seeing that yesterday and being like, that could be a problem. But he had a couple decent saves as well. So, 6 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Lyndon Gooch, obviously, once again, starting right wing back. One of 2 Americans on the pitch, which I'm sure Kyle was very excited about. Lyndon Gooch for you, John?
I'll probably go for 7. I thought he was very good. 1 or 2 balls went a little bit AWOL when he was caught out of the picture a couple of times, but going forward, for me, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. They couldn't deal with him. You know, he was sort of 2v1 a lot of the time, and he was cutting back on his left foot, and he was getting countless balls in the box, which we need to do better with. But I was impressed. 7.
Yeah, Kyle?
Yeah, 7 as well, and just I'll disavow Josh Sargent because I hated the way he played yesterday. It was frustratingly he's just on the floor constantly, and then of course he gets the tap in. That's Josh Sargent to a T. But Lyndon Gooch, very industrious, I think is the word I would use. Just really got after it, showed that he's still capable of doing it on his day, and he just didn't come out for us at the end. But no fault to him.
Yeah. Luke O'Nien obviously started right side of the back three again in the absence of Dan Ballard. Whether he keeps that place come the end of the transfer window, not entirely sure, but that is again something we'll see. I thought he was far and away the best player on the pitch yesterday, John.
I'd go with an 8. I thought he was very good. I think I watched him win about 8 headers that just continuously just kept coming over, and he was easy, probably unlucky to get a booking, because I think him and I think it was Sargent were both going at it, and they didn't really make any contact, and he just goes down. So I thought he was quite unlucky with that one. But I'll go with an 8, and I thought he was very, very good at the back.
Yeah, Kyle?
Absolutely agree. I think he definitely was the best on the field for us. And what you're seeing, because everyone's kind of harped on about his technical ability. Oh, he's, and he couldn't do it in the midfield. We saw that in the preseason. And a few other games, midfield obviously was not his position. He's obviously found his position now. I thought he played excellent. And there's a few times where, for what he lacks in technical ability, he's got the mental side of it figured out. I think he covered players on runs perfectly. There's one situation in the box where players moving around, and he picked up the open player immediately. No hesitation. He knew exactly where he was supposed to be, snuffed out a chance. So I was really, really happy with that performance yesterday, and it's really good to see that from Luke O'Nien.
Yeah. On to Danny Batth, John, obviously alongside Luke O'Nien.
Yeah, I'll probably go for 7. I thought it was very good. Again, he's probably one of the ones I still didn't notice as much, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, I thought he was more than solid back there.
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, very Danny Batth like performance, I would say. Yeah, just solid. Won the headers, won the duels, put in some good tackles. I think he had a header on goal as well, if I remember correctly. I thought it was him. That was a decent chance, but yeah, overall it just shows that he was a quality signing when we picked him up, because he definitely belongs on this level.
Yeah. Dennis Cirkin, left side of the back three, John.
I'll probably go with a 6. I didn't think he was maybe as good as he was last week against Stoke, and I'd maybe say he's questionable with. He's the one who's closest to Josh Sargent in the middle, even though he's maybe not supposed to be marking him. But I thought he could have maybe done better on that one. So yeah, I'll go over 6.
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, it's spot on. I think it's 6 as well. It's going to be a tough season for him overall. There's going to be a lot of games to be played, but he looked great last week. I think there's an obvious difference between Norwich and Stoke in this level. I thought he did all right though. But yeah, that goal, like I said, it was a typical. I've watched Josh Sargent play a lot for the national team. That's how he scores like 99% of his goals. It's just timing, and he just got that extra step on him. So
yeah, that's fair. Jack Clarke, obviously playing left wing back once again. I think the best way to describe him at the moment, especially obviously he's still a young player, but is inconsistent. And I think yesterday was one of the games where he didn't really have too much of an impact on either side of the pitch, John.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go with a 5. I thought it was very frustrating going forward. I think we did get the ball to him a lot of the time, and he seemed a little bit hesitant to go at his man, which frustrated me, because we know he's got excellent ability. Sometimes he just drift past players. A few wrong decisions in there as well. I thought he works hard, obviously getting back. But yeah, all I want to see from him is some quality going forward, and I didn't see that yesterday. So yeah, 5.
Yeah, Kyle, for you on Jack Clarke.
Yeah, we're probably gonna be pretty similar moving forward. But yeah, he is frustrating because we've seen the ability, we've seen it there. Sometimes he just doesn't want to use his weak foot, to put balls in, and sometimes it messes up the timing, because Ross and Ellis are making these runs, and he tries to pull it back and uses dominant foot. It just messed up the timing, and I thought that's what happened a few times yesterday. I just wanted to show a little bit more emotion too. He just has the same expression on his face no matter what. But I think that's a tale for another pod. But no, I think overall he just wasn't his day. So yeah, I think 5 star.
Yeah, Corey Evans obviously in midfield once again. On another day, like I said, could have scored 2, possibly 3 goals had it not been for some goal line clearances from the Norwich defence. Thought it was fairly solid throughout, John.
Yeah, I'll probably go for 7. Yeah, probably, if anything, probably hits them 2 strikes maybe too sweetly.
Yeah.
If he stuffs them a little bit, they probably do drift off in.
Seems to be a common theme, a half volley from Corey Evans this season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but at least he's in the right positions and he's getting forward. But yeah, I thought he was very good yesterday in the middle, and he was sort of high pressing and swapping in and out with Dan Neil, whereas normally we see him sort of sat back. But yeah, I thought he was very good and probably a big leader in the team yesterday with obviously what had happened. So you've got to give him credit as well for that.
Yeah, Corey Evans for you, Kyle.
Yeah, I think 7 as well. And boy, have we come a long way to watching Josh Scowen try that same shot and hit it into Rosie. So it's nice to see these volleys go on frame at least, and one of them will at least deflect or bounce in. So I'm all for in the right positions. Yeah, one day. But he's always in the right position, that's what we like to see. And I really liked his post game interview as well. I think you're spot on. He is the leader of this team, so I think it's important to have someone like him in the squad.
Yeah. Obviously, alongside him was obviously Dan Neil back from his suspension, which did in the end prove to be a 1-game suspension. I think a few people, myself included, was a little confused whether it would be 1 or 2, but it was definitely 1. Came straight back into the team and slotted back in fairly well, I thought, John.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent yesterday. I'd probably give him an 8. I thought he was, especially sort of 60, 70 minutes, he was everywhere. He was getting his tackles in. I was a little bit worried we were going to see maybe a naughty tackle.
There was a few that he seemed to dive into, wasn't there?
Yeah, but to be fair, I thought he came away with the ball, and his pressing was excellent, and it's almost like he's notched it up a level from last season. And obviously that red card might just have, and obviously what's happened with Alex Neil and how the crowd, he's going to react to the crowd. Some players are very sort of professional and say, "Oh, we'll just play the game," but Dan Neil seemed to react to it. And yesterday, I thought he was excellent. The only thing I'm waiting for is maybe if he can keep that level up, which is a big ask, for 90 minutes. But yeah, yesterday I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, Kyle on Dan Neil.
Yeah, I think it was important that he went right back into the squad as well. And like I said, I think Alex Neil was the one who chose this lineup. So it shows that he still has the confidence in him, even though he made a really bad mistake of getting that red card. But yeah, I think we just see him get better and better. I think he gets more confident on the ball. The last thing we need is just his final ball, because he'll beat his man, get in great space, and that final ball just isn't getting there. But that is something that can very easily be worked on, right? So I think all the tools are there. I'm really looking forward to see Dan Neil progress, and I think a 7 yesterday was warranted.
Yeah. Alex Pritchard, obviously the attacking midfield just ahead of them two, John.
I'll probably go with a 6. I think he works really, really hard, but a few things just didn't come off. And I have noticed a few times he does switch off his defensive duties, which I think we do need to just be wary of, because we know teams can take one opportunity, and it's a goal. But yeah, he wasn't. I'm sure he was pretty good in the first half. Second half, obviously drifted off, and at the moment we know he can't last 90 minutes. So yeah, I'll probably go with a 6, because I do expect a bit more from him.
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, 6 as well. It's he moved out the pitch really well. Got stuck in a few times, for someone his size, and that's the biggest thing I noticed too in the championship. It's just the size of some of the opposition, and he sticks out a little bit just because he's on the shorter side. But he holds the middle really well, and especially in that attacking third, we just couldn't figure it out. And I'm sure other teams realize it as well, that a lot of what we do successfully goes through him. So they can kind of mark him down. But yeah, it just didn't come off for him yesterday. So 6.
Yeah. On to the front two, John. Ross Stewart starting with first. Obviously, could have had a couple of goals. Had one deflected wide. After I think it was either Corey Evans or Dan Neil, I think it was, that won the ball in the Norwich box, and obviously Stewart just saw his effort go inches wide, and obviously in the second half had a volley from close range, tipped onto the bar by Krul. Again, on another day, could have probably had 2, maybe 3 goals. I don't think it was necessarily down to poor finishing. Again, I think defending from Norwich was good. Tim Krul had a good game. So yeah, Ross Stewart for you.
I'll probably go with an 8. I thought he was very good. Like you say, on another day, he scores a hat trick. There's contract things in the background that you think maybe could affect him, but to me, it doesn't look affected at all. Exactly what we expect of him. Grafts his arse off, gets his body in there, and on another day, like we say, he scores a hat trick, but just wasn't meant to be yesterday. So yeah, I was still impressed with him.
Yeah, Kyle.
I'll go with the 7 just because his job is to get the ball in the back of the net, which he was antagonizingly close to doing, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just, I think, better efforts from Norwich to keep it out of the goal. But he's in all the right spots, and his movement is still just really, really good for this level. Able to just get the step on the defender. So 7, and on another day, this easily could have been a 9 or a 10.
Yeah. And last but not least, Ellis Sims, again, another player that could have had a goal or 2, had one header in the second half, just go off the outside of the post, John.
I'll probably get a lot of hate here, but I don't think he was very good. I'll probably go over 5 for yesterday. Yes, he had 1 or 2 opportunities, but for me, I think he was quite lazy. I think normally, he should follow Stewart in the, and trigger the press. And yeah, for me yesterday, it was just a little bit lazy, and we want him to hold the ball up, a hell of a lot more than he's doing at the moment. It might just be, the odd game he's going to do that, because to be fair, he's only young. But yeah, yesterday, he didn't really impress me.
Yeah, that is fair. Kyle, last but not least.
Yeah, and I might have to go back and watch it and see how they're kind of marking him and stuff. But I distinctly remember it being like 35 or 40 minutes, and I think we were defending a corner, and I was like, oh, Ellis Sims is on the field. I felt like I didn't see him at all in the first half, and that's tough. So I don't know if he's just marked out of the game or just wasn't quite finding the rhythm. But I'm so confident in his abilities as well, and it came so close to getting that goal in. I would say it's 6, but I don't blame you at all for the 5.
Yeah. Man of the match for Sunderland, John gave, I think, 3-8 out to Stuart, Daniel, and Ugo Nyan. I think Nyan would be head and shoulders above anyone else for that one from me. But John?
Yeah, I'll go with Nyan as well. I thought from start to finish he was solid, and you could say technically playing that position, even though he is very, very good there. For 90 minutes, I thought he was fantastic. Especially you have to be so switched on when you're on a booking as well, so early on. So yeah, excellent display.
Yeah. Is there any disagreement from Kyle on that one?
Not at all. And I think any new players we bring in, just show them like a good 5-minute Luke O'Nien montage or highlights and be like, this is just how we want you to play. Like, look at the effort that he puts in and the energy. He loves it. So 8, and I think is very well deserved. And that's, if I ever would have thought that Luke O'Nien would be getting an 8 rating from a championship game against a team like Norwich, I would have said you're dreaming. But it just is a testament to his ability, or I would say work rate and effort. He wasn't given the beautiful ability by any means, but I think yesterday showed what Luke O'Nien is all about.
Yeah, that is fair. Well, yesterday's game was obviously one of 3 games within the next 9 days. Rotherham at home on Wednesday, then of course Middlesbrough away on Monday. Another game that is on Sky Sports, that one. But Rotherham up first at home, John. Out of all the games that we kind of looked at and said, which games would Sunderland be favourites for and should Sunderland really be winning at home, I think Rotherham was certainly one of them. Obviously, got battened off them last season in League One and then drew with them towards the end of the season at home, thanks to a brilliant diving header from now Sheffield Wednesday centre-back, Ihekwe, I think he's called. So it's going to be not an easy game. We all know what Rotherham bring to the table, very physical team. They like to play the ball in the air. Whether that's the same this season, I'm not entirely sure, because obviously they have lost quite a few of their players to Sheffield Wednesday, really. I think Michael Smith and Ihekwe have both signed for them. So it'll be an interesting game, but one that Sunderland really need to be looking to get the first win of the season against, at home anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a massive game for us to get, especially a home win as well, just to put to bed to any, our home form's probably what's, kept the points, rolling up on the board, continuously for the last sort of, forever. So it's definitely one we've got to look at and think, we need to be able to go and do the business here. And I'm definitely expecting us to go and do that.
Yeah. Kyle, I'll start with you for a score prediction on Wednesday's game at home to Rotherham.
Well, they are one of 2 teams who have yet to lose in the championship. Them and Preston North End, who's just a bizarre team. I look at those.
1 goal in all of their games so far this season. Just 1.
One win and 5 draws. Anyways, no losses. But yeah, same with
Rotherham. 5 0-0 draws as well.
Yeah,
0-0.
It's incredible. But they obviously know how to avoid defeat. I'd be pretty happy with the draw, to be honest. I think something like a 1-1 would make a lot of sense with the goal coming from Alex Pritchard on a free kick.
Very specific prediction, John.
No, I'm definitely going for Sunderland win all the way, 2-1. But again, I'll take any win. I don't really care how they come. Just win the game.
Yeah, that is fair. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Obviously, we will try and get a preview out for Wednesday's game. If not, we'll have a podcast out on Thursday talking about the game. We'll have a preview out for the Middlesbrough game, which will come out on Sunday or Saturday. And then, of course, another one after that. So plenty of podcasts within the next week. And obviously, if any new signings come in from particularly English clubs, where we can get an opposition fan in to come in and discuss what that player brings to the team, we will certainly do that. But until next time, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.